Hi, Miss Renee.
Hi, how are you, Mr. Howard and Mr. Donovan? And of course,
I
I'm doing quite well, thank you.
great.
You're welcome, Mr. Chris. It's nice to see you again.
I know I miss your background with books.
Yes. Those were fake books. So I'm trying to work on the
Really,
real ones.
really. So I couldn't pick one off the wall and read it.
I remember that word. It made me laugh the last time we had an interview.
You can take one off of my and read it along with all my papers and, and things from college. What a writer's office and room looks like.
I'm still trying to get to that point where I've got more than well, I just launched my second book and my third will launch next year. But I look at all the people who participate in these conferences in these sessions, and I'm looking like, gosh, how do they write so many books? Because it takes me so long.
Quality is not important. Quantity, what you put out there. One great book is better than someone having 50 books that are published. Look at it that
That's true.
way. Look at
Yeah.
it that way. You know, focus on being the best writer you can be and grow from each book. That's it.
I noticed you say that, but you got all those books behind you.
Years, just material that I write all the time. I have the time now. Kids are grown and gone and out of the house. So now I have that time to put into myself and do the writings and things that need to get done now. So the other factors, sometimes people have small children, or maybe they're in school, a lot of things. Life happens.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah.
This is very
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. You'll get there. You get there.
Well, I do have a lot of I do have a lot of things that occupy my mind. I mean,
Mhm.
one of the reasons why I don't sleep is because, well, my psychiatrist says I think too much. And I'm like, okay, so that's a problem, as opposed to not thinking. But
Growing. That's all. You're growing. And that means you have a lot of material to write about. You have a lot
oh
of,
my gosh.
if you're cogitating a lot, that means you have a lot of material that you have to write about.
And my problem is as long as it takes me to produce one book, one novel, I'll need three more lifetimes to be able to get them all finished.
See, and you said something else. A novel is much different than a poem. You can have an author knock out a poem, 5 poems, some authors, one day. A novel is over time. So, you know,
This is true. This
yeah,
is true.
that's a whole nother. You're talking about two different avenues here.
And the complication comes in the fact that I write. I'm working on producing my third novel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I write poetry. I write a weekly opinion column for a newspaper. I write philosophy. I just
Mm-hmm.
write, and then I got so much stuff that occupies the space between my ears that there's not enough time.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll be glad when I get finished with this cloning process. I need about three more of me.
You get there. What about you, Mr. Donovan? Do you struggle in that area? Do you do a lot of writing?
Yeah, I have a full-time job, so I have to like write around that. But if I didn't have the job, like I wouldn't be able to like afford all the stuff that has to go into like publishing a book.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to write. I tend to write a lot on late Friday and Saturday nights, and then I write like a little bit before going to work, and that does add up over like 1 or 2 years. But you have to stick with it. I mean, you can't like I don't think I would by this point because I have it, but you can't let it get away from you because you can like, you know, always find another YouTube. Like if I didn't watch YouTube videos, my novel would have been done like a year earlier. It's true.
The word again comes in focus.
Yes, yes.
You have to
Focus.
hone in on what it is exactly we're doing, what we want to accomplish, and get it done. Yeah. Wow.
So you
Good
can't.
stuff.
So you have to basically rule out all the distractions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to change my voice. When people call me, my voicemail literally says between the hours of 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, I'm not available.
That's a good idea.
Because I realized, you know, the phone calls, the intermittent visits, the video, the television. I don't watch television anymore. I don't take phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
If you come knock on my door or you come visit me without a schedule, it won't get answered. But I had to do that in order to be able to facilitate my writing time. I mean, because people feel like, well, you know, because you're retired, you don't have anything to do. And I honestly do more now than I did when I owned 2 companies.
Exactly. I get it. I get that.
My voicemail literally says between the hours of 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, I'm not available. If it's urgent, hang up and dial right back. Otherwise, leave a message and I'll contact you as soon as I can. And you know, I think I explained to Mr. Peter, I have to structure my writing. So you know, my voicemail says 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, but I usually end up working from like 7 in the morning until 11, 12 at night. But it's a full-time job.
Yeah. So I would just love to go ahead while I'm waiting on other people to join, because I still have some other people who should participate in it, probably having problem with joining, or they'll join alongside. So welcome everybody to the second edition of the P English Literatures Writers Conference, part 2 of the second day. It's exciting to have you.
We're excited to be here. The first edition with Writers Conference edition was just phenomenal. It's wonderful. A lot of feedback and a lot of great input. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have Chris Donovan rather, joining from Canada, right? And D.J. Howard joining from the United States, and Alterene Drummond Brown also joining from the United States. So I would love to proceed or to start by first introducing Chris Devana and have him a bit to talk about his writing and his works. I'm going to be reading a short bio of Chris Donovan before handing over to him to have a short section with his books. Chris Donovan is an independent author from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Since 2013, he has published 7 books with Amazon, including a 4 installment of the Republic of Ontario series and a novella, Other Cities. His 8th book, a novel called Romeo, will be published in January 2023 on his Facebook author page. Chris talks about his fiction and interviews other writers. Before I move into introducing Chris Donovan, I want to first mention that when I heard about Romeo, the first thing that came to my mind was Romeo Origo, who recently won the Nigerian Prize for Literature. And I was like, wow, that would sound like a nice one. So it's a pleasure to have Mr. Chris on the show. I'm going to hand over to you now, Mr. Chris.
Well, thank you for inviting me. As you read in the bio, I'm from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. I published my first book with Amazon in 2013. It was like a serial that I'd done for a comic book website. And I used that as kind of like, I worked out a lot of the things that you shouldn't do with publishing. And then I moved on to, well, I've got the books with me.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
published 7 since 2013, and I started at publishing ebooks, but as the technology got better, I started putting them in the paperback in the last few years. The lockdowns, actually, I talked about like finding time to write. The lockdowns, and this is probably true with other writers, the lockdowns gave me a lot more time to like write, and not only that, but take the time to put my stuff into paperback. So this was the first this was the first novel that I put out. I put it out as an ebook, and it was kind of like it's kind of intended to be like a standalone, but now it's like a series. So this is like the first in the Republic of Ontario series, and the idea behind the series is that because in Canada for years and years and years we're always living with not exactly the threat, but the idea that Quebec, because it's a French-speaking province and it tends to be at odds with the rest of English Canada, that it'd be Quebec that would leave Confederation. So I kind of came up with the idea in this one that it would be Ontario that would leave. And through 4 books, I'm trying to like work out like why they actually did leave. So I started with this one, Shards. This is book number 2, Crescendo. This is book number 3, Deviant. And this is book number 4, Gemini.
That's a lot.
And those are all from the series. And then I did like this novella, and it was also originally just an ebook, and it came to be a paperback because while we're in another lockdown, I took the time to like contact all these libraries to see if I could get like newspaper backs into them, and I saved like a lot of money because you have to like print them and you have to send them. And I found that a lot of libraries would not, they would not take the books. So I had all this money left over. So I thought, well, I'll just, because I had not planned to like print this book. So I printed it. And this book is a lot, it ended up being one of the more popular titles. I've got it into like the library that I work for, and it's like, it keeps going. And as you mentioned in my biography, I'm going to be publishing a book in January called Romeo. I've been working on that since July 2020. It's a novel that's going to be 500 pages, which is like more than the last 2 novels combined. So it's right now at the formatter, and it'll come back and I'll do edits on that, and then it'll be delayed a bit because things tend to shut down at Christmas, but I hope to have that out in January. So that's called Romeo. And you also mentioned that I have a Facebook page. So that's where I like where I've been putting all my updates, all my painful updates on writing that book. I also interview other writers. I interviewed you, Peter, earlier this year. And so that's where you would go to get information on my books and to watch my interviews with other writers.
That's amazing. And thanks for adding that. And I actually did enjoy our last interview for the author spot and for my writing. It was quite amazing. Thanks. So I'd love to move to BG over to have him also talk about his book.
Hello, Mr. Peter. Thank you. It's nice to be here. Thank you for having me. And hello to my fellow. Can I say that? My fellow authors.
Sure.
But my name again is B.G. Howard. I'm an author of fiction. My first novel released in April of 2020, and after the book was published and launched, it did okay, but I didn't really understand what I was doing. So I went back and researched how to write a novel, and the product of that research, I revised the first novel, and the revised edition of Family Ties, Thicker Than Blood, just released in June, so a few months ago. and that is the revision of my first work. The follow-up to that, Family Ties 2, Blood Covenant, is scheduled to launch in spring, summer of next year, of 2023. But right now, the Family Ties Thicker Than Blood revised edition is available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Goodreads, all the popular platforms. You can also visit my website, www.authorbghoward.com, where you'll find content there, including original philosophical quotes. There's a blog page called In the Gray Matter. I write for a weekly column. I write for a weekly newspaper, an opinion column for a weekly newspaper. So I also post those columns on the website as well. So all the information that you want to know about me, BG Howard, you can find on my website. But the novel Family Ties Thicker Than Blood revised edition, it concerns a young man from Georgia, wow, who moves to New York, and he's an aspiring model slash actor. While there, he becomes associated. He accidentally saves the life of Oswald Jenkins, who is a notorious crime figure in an organized crime family. But you can't be a thug named Oswald, so they call him Oz. So Willie saves Oz's life, and Oz more or less takes him under his wing. And that causes a problem for the previous second man by the name of Anthony, or Amp. And Amp teams up with another former protege by the name of Jerome. Amp and Jerome hatch a plan to take over Oz's territory. Things are a little further complicated by the fact that Willie, the main character, engages in a romantic relationship with NYPD officer Ernestina Lady. So he's running operations for Oz, the crime boss, while dating Ernestina, the police, and then he is more or less adopted by an older couple, Eunice and Sam, who are both coincidentally from the South. Sam is from South Carolina, Eunice is from Georgia, not too far from where Willie originated, but they met in New York, had been married for several years, and the story concerns the exploits of Willie as he goes about his daily chores, running operations for Oz while pursuing a career as a model slash actor. And it gets really, really, really involved, but the plot twists make it interesting. And coincidentally, I used to live in New York. The loss of memory is interesting because when I wrote the book, I went after writing the book, I went back to New York to visit, and it was like I had a professor from California tell me when she read the book, she used to live in New York, and she read the book, and she was like, "Well, it was like taking a tour of New York City," which is really ironic because I had no memory of living in New York. But when I wrote the book, everything turned out to be pretty much true. So it's not an autobiography. There's some points of the story that people question me about how much I actually do remember. But I used to live a different life, and I'll leave it at that. But the follow-up to this, Family Ties 2, Blood Covenant, will be out next year, spring or summer. But anyway, that's my journey. How I started writing. Again, I never intended to be a novelist. It's just something that it was more therapeutic than anything else because I had an accident in 2001 and I underwent 8 years of rehabilitative therapy. And I explained to Mr. Peter in a previous conversation that my writing proved to be more therapeutic than anything else. And it's been a really interesting experience, to say the least. But everything that you need to know or that you might want to know about me, you can find on my website, authorbghoward.com, www.authorbghoward.com. And there you'll find information about me, my interests, the blog pages, in the gray matter, which consists of columns that I write for the weekly newspaper, and also points to ponder, which are original philosophical quotes from moi, that I write as well. But my interests are all things writing, and I really enjoy platforms such as this when I get to meet other authors and realize that I'm not in this by myself. It's a journey. But thank you again to all those who are on this platform. Thank you for Mr. Peter for this platform. And with respect to the efforts of everyone, it's not easy.
Yeah. Thank you for an amazing speech delivery. It's quite amazing to hear about your book. Now, I'd love to move into an open discussion with Renan Drummond Brown. That's on how the author become a bestseller. She would also be telling us about her own book alongside. So I'd love to hand over to you, Mrs. Rennie, to pick up from there.
Okay, I'm Renee Drummond Brown, and I write from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm a native of North Carolina. My dad was in the Marines for 30 plus years. I've lived a little bit of everywhere before coming back to my parents' home, which is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I write so many different types of, from so many different types of, I'll say, genres of poetry. So I didn't want to be like boxed into being seen as one type of author. My first book was written, Renee's Poems with Wings or Words in Flight, I'll Right Our Wrongs, and it was published with Westboro Press Publications. And as again, they were a Christian publishing company, and I didn't want to be just like locked into seen as that just Christian publisher. So I moved to their sister company, which is the Author House, and I published 4 more books, I think 5 books actually there. And then from there, I just stepped out on faith and began publishing my own works. Started with Lulu, and they moved to a different type of publishing style using the PDF file, and I didn't like that. So I went over to Amazon and began publishing under KDP. And because I write a lot of poetry, I could get my books out rapidly, and I can move on to the project. From publishing my books, I then thought, let me try anthologies. So I did that. I have 5 anthologies under my belt. I wanted my work to not just be, again, boxed into just a United States author. I wanted to be global. And so I began reaching out to other authors on different global platforms and bringing them into my books. From there, I thought I'll try a children's book. I wrote a children's book. I'm now working on a magazine. So I have approximately 45 books under my belt to date, which can be seen at those different Amazon and Lulu and Westboro Press and Author House platforms. Go there. I'm on there by name, Renee Drummond Brown, as you see here, and are Googling my name. My books will come up under Google, Amazon. I mean, just if you just put my name in, they're pretty much everywhere. You see that. So I think this was my 3rd book, if I'm not mistaken, sold to the highest bidder. I wrote this book while in the associate's program. So I went back to school a little later, and I'll tell you about this book in a minute. Went back to school a little later. And when I went back, I started the associate's program, had no idea I would just keep going and going. And while in the associate's program, I took a course studying the rhetoric of the civil rights movement. And we were learning about the freedom singers. I knew a lot about my roots, but had never heard of the freedom singers, the civil rights movement. And so while in that class, our professor telephoned Miss Rutha Mae Harris, who is an original freedom singer. She was under the SNCC organization, who helped raise the monies for the marches for the civil rights movement. And SNCC is a Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And so I did an assignment. On the back of my assignments, on occasions, I would put these poems. And the poem was about Miss Rutha Mae Harris. So being that the professor knew her, he gave the poem to her. She, in turn, gave the poem to the Metro Gazette Publishing Company, who in turn contacted the college to publish my first shared piece. So I had always wrote, but I never shared. So I'm gonna try to find that piece. I'll read that piece. The other thing I want to talk about with this book, Renee's Poems with Wings of Words in Flight, is a collection of poetic injustices that reflect periods in time related to civil rights movement and the 21st century. We cannot forget to remember our past, and we cannot remember to forget our present. And we should never forget that we were sold to the highest bidder. And what I wanted to do with this book was just connect our past to the present, my generation, to the future generations by me leaving behind this literary body of works for future generations to maybe study while in college someday. So I'm going to try and find that poem, Harris. So bear with me. Keep going. So when we talk about publications, well, I'm looking for this. When we talk about publications, we spoke the last time, Peter, we just kind of touched on it. We talked about the who, the what, the where, the when, the why, and the how. You know, how do we get this thing called publication done, you know, for ourselves? So I kind of now want to hone in on that subject that I brought up on the first workshop. So when we talk about the who, we want to know, who is your audience? In other words, just who are you writing for when we think of the who in publishing? And then the what, you know, what is your literary genre? I really liked what you said, Mr. Howard, that you had never been to New York before. And yet you wrote on this, and from a professor's point of view, they felt as though you gave them a map, more so to speak, or a guide getting through New York, and you said you couldn't remember yourself being there. I know for me, it was a struggle for me when I began writing because my writings tended to be all over the place. And I remember a professor talking to me about that. She said, "You're a good writer." She said, "But you have to hone in on where you're at in writing." And so you kind of brought place and space into perspective again for me to make sure our writings are tight and crispy clear. And that was huge that a professor would have picked that out of your book. So again, when we talk about what is your literary genre, you know, is it history? Is it fiction, nonfiction, poetry, children's writing, travel writings? Whatever you choose to write on, be very crisp in those writings and hone in that direction, that you don't want a nonfiction book to start like dwindling in some things that are fiction. You need to really be focused right where you are, what you're saying that book is and or about. Where do you want to take your writings to outside of family and friends? Sometimes we have our writings, we're comfortable in publishing them on I'll call it a lower scale, not beneath anyone, nothing like that, but I'm saying on a scale that we just make these books, maybe have 100 of them, and we're just selling those to family and friends. Well, in doing that, your voice is not being heard, you know, whatever your voice may be. and you want your voice on a global platform. We're not going to all be Dr. Maya Angelou, Adrian Rich, Sylvia Plath. We're not going to all be those poets, Shakespeare, but we still can be a poet that our voices can be heard. Your voice from down south to Canada, mine's from Pittsburgh to Nigeria. I think that's very important for all of us as writers. And then I kind of want to move to the when. When is the best time for us to drop that book? We talked about that even in the first workshop. I remember writing a book titled I Love You Poems. And I want to say I finished it, maybe it was Christmas time around the holidays. And I thought it would be better dropping that book closer to Valentine's Day. Because when people connect the words I love you, they connected at that time, of the year. So sometimes it's very important when to drop that book. Be very creative in that. December, I believe it is. Don't quote me on this, but I believe it is December is one of the biggest holiday selling seasons for books. I want to say August and I want to say December for some reason, if I remember correctly. So it's very important to maybe if you have that book finished in June or late July, wait, to that August 1st day to drop that book right then. So you're hitting people at the right time and the right season, if you will. So why are your words important? Why? Well, your words are important because they matter. They matter to you, so they might matter to me. If your story is a story of rape or molestation or civil rights, whatever your story may be, it will connect to somebody. And you can draw people into your experiences to make your voice be heard so that they can too say, you know what, hey, look, I can overcome that too. If he did it or if she did it, I can also do that. And then think of how do I publish a book? So I'm going to leave that open discussion as I did before with Peter on the how. How is it that we publish the book? And I found the poem, page 119 in my book. I'm going to read that really quickly to you, which is my first poem. I've since, of course, grown as an author. So this poem was titled, since we were in the rhetoric of the Civil Rights Movement, Miss Rutha Mae Harris. Thank you. And let me say this about the poem. I connected the songs they sang as they marched during those times. And that's what this book was, and that's what this poem was all centered on. So it brought back a connection to her and I about those songs that she sung to motivate those marchers to march on in spite of everything else going on around them. So Miss Harris, thank you for your involvement in the Civil Rights Movement poem. Thank you concerning the movement with your gift of songs. Thank you for knowing and singing it was the blood for me while being done wrong. Thank you for singing about that old time religion that we so longed. Thank you for singing before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave. Thank you for singing just a little walk with thee while being brave. Thank you for singing he's got the whole world in his hands while nonviolence was Dr. King's message of the day. Thank you for singing our way in and out of those jails. Thank you for singing I've got Jesus and that's enough with no bail. Thank you for singing he's so real in times when you were frail. Thank you for singing we've come this far by faith, can't turn around and we won't go to hell. Thank you for singing cast me not, oh gentle Savior, hear my humble cry. Thank you for singing somebody prayed for me and told Satan goodbye. Thank you for singing I won't complain, which made our oppressors wonder why. Thank you for singing walk in the light while always being prepared to die. Thank you, precious Lord, take my hands while you took that stance. Thank you for singing how I got over while taking that chance. Thank you for singing to kids, I've been in a storm, and respect yourself in advance. Thank you for singing, I've got a testimony to President Barack Obama, as you, Rutha Mae Harris, do your Holy Ghost dance in song. So, and that's the poem. And of course, I always thank you. I always do a dedication. So I dedicated the poem to red, black, brown, yellow, and white men who bled and died for the civil rights movement. So I want to say this, the end of my books, I always write this in my books. So that, again, we talked about connection, so that I could connect my red brother, my white brother, my black brother, whomever. A note from the author. In no way, shape, form, or fashion is my poetry ever meant to offend any race of people, because I, being a woman of color, know racism too well. However, my ink is meant to educate the masses so that we may grow together as a human race. That, just those words there, may offer somebody, I want to say this may open up their mind to say, hey, I want to pick up that book and or look at some of her readings, or get back and not look at just the ugly side of slavery. What is this author trying to say and or teach us about what happened then? What we should not repeat today. So that's my story. And I want to connect to everybody. I want everybody to hear my voice, not a certain audience. And I think that is very important for us as writers, to make sure that our words are open for everybody. They may not like them, but you have a voice. I have a voice. And then I'm going to leave everybody on the how. How do we get to that publishing platform? Give us some ideals, some tips, and I'll be glad to come back in and share some of mine.
Yeah,
So
concerning the fact of being a best-selling author, well, I've been so curious to know about that for a very long time. It has been my wish. It has been what I want to, get to, and I've always been asking that question: how exactly the author becomes a bestseller? Did they become a bestseller over the night? Was it because they have a particular background in literature, or was it based on some certain things? So, but with me, I think it has to do, number one, actually, unlike you said in our first conference. I'm sorry, I'm having an issue with my speaking tempo because of the network, so bear with me. Like you said in the previous conference, that being a bestseller actually did not mean that you have a better writing, like you're a good writer. It's just that your works are out there in the public and people get to know more about it. And that's one of the reasons why I've actually been saying that there are quite a lot of books like that are not known. They're actually very good, and they are lacking exposure. They're lacking marketability. They're lacking the fact of nobody actually knew about them. They don't know if it exists or not. But why some not so good books actually perform because of great marketing. But when I talk about marketing, I think it has to do with social media actually plays a very crucial role for an author in becoming a bestseller, because social media is where everything happens. Everybody can watch you from any part of the world. Anybody can see your writing from any part of the world. Anybody can access your work from every part of the world. The use of Facebook. And it's not only about the use of Facebook. It's all about you having that wide range of audience. You can come to think of it. I think I was watching a particular author's page in Time Past, and he recently published a book, and it's currently on sale. And I saw his post said, 100,000 copies already sold. Book more, and for signing. So I was like, oh my God, that's a lot. So imagine such kind of, so I was now curious. I was like, how do author actually become bestseller? I think I'll have to put this question up and ask quite a lot of people and get to know some ideas on how people actually, because it's quite very interesting. It's actually a very interesting thing. You know, it's something that's very good for you to have your work out there in the public, in the domain, people getting to read what you're doing, unlike the other way around, people not getting to know about your work. So I just think it's something I've been wanting to know. I don't know if anybody would come and help me in the style, the things required for an author to actually become a bestseller, because it's a topic that I've been exploring and I'm yet to get to the deep, to the reason. I'm yet to get an answer to it. Maybe I can get a help.
Well, Peter, I'll kind of weigh in. There was I don't know that the woman was an author, but there was a well-known person. We'll just say it like that. And a lot of money, a lot of money. You can have nepotism in anything, Peter, in anything you do.
Yes.
But their better half was the writer. And so the person purchased tons and tons of books. So according to Amazon, those are seen just as sales. He's the best author, Peter. I'm not saying everyone is like that. That is not what I'm saying, but I'm saying those are some ways that happens for, for some people. That's in anything we do. I think for me, we have to sometimes use our gifts. I've seen authors, they'll have someone narrate their work for them who are professional speakers. And they are awesome. I've had some of my earlier poems narrated by a gentleman, Hank Wukima. He's on Facebook. Oh, phenomenal, phenomenal voice. Actually, you can pull him up his YouTube. He does it for tons of people, but he's seen my work online and asked, could he narrate some of my poems? And it was funny because Hank Wukima is Caucasian, and of course, I'm African American, and have a lot of slang in my work, this and that, and some of your Southern dialect. And so it was hard for him to get through reading the poems. So I literally had to rewrite them and put this, that. So he did a phenomenal job. In fact, one of my family members said they love his version. So here's where I'm going with you. While that is good in getting your work out there, in terms of people knowing who you are in publishing, I would also hear from family members and friends, while we hear his version of you, we like to see you, recite your work. So I had to learn to come out of my uncomfortable zone of not wanting to speak. This is all new for me. So in spite of what you might see or think, this is not comfortable for me. So I'm trying to learn how to get better at public speaking and feeling comfortable in doing it. Mm-hmm. And that's what began me reading my own works. Having said that, we have to do that ourselves. I would like to before we leave, Peter, I would like to hear from Mr. Howard. He talked about his book. I like to, but hearing him, I can put the face to his book, hearing his words, come to life for me. And I think that's very important. If we could just even like a snippet. I think that is so important for authors when you have platforms like these. Take the time to, if it's a paragraph, so you may pull someone in on, I like what I've heard from him. So I just think you asked that question, how do we, for me, a lot of people say that public speaking is my gift as far as reciting my works and or reading my work. So I had to take that public speaking, my gifts, and I had to begin to utilize what I am most uncomfortable in. That brought the selling features, I'll say, for my books to come to life because people heard my works from my own mouth. So hopefully that'll help other authors.
Can I, if I could interject, I understand and totally respect what you're saying. There are some of us have certain challenges. Like I obviously have something of a speech impediment. It's really complicated, but the short version of it is I had an accident. I suffered an accident, really bad, and I underwent 8 years of rehabilitative therapy. I had to learn how to talk, walk, eat, everything all over again. The challenge for me, there are times that I can have a conversation and never stutter. And then there are other times when the inside joke is it takes me an hour and a half to watch 60 minutes. So my question is, how do you overcome? I mean, would it be, some people say that, if I narrate, for example, I want to do an audiobook. And some people say, well, you should hire a professional because you can't speak so eloquently. And then there are others who say, well, if you speak, if you do the audiobook yourself, it's gonna come across as being more authentic. So I'm, stuck in the middle. Which direction do I go? I mean, I've got to look at it from both a realistic standpoint, but also from the standpoint of commercialism. So my question is, where do you find that medium or that middle ground?
Well, thank God with social media, everything is not live, because Lord knows I would put up some of my videos live, not want to watch them. I tend to do, I'm not as comfortable yet with live. I tend to have my videos. Sometimes I can get it right within a second, just going straight to the phone. Sometimes it takes 8 or 9 takes. Have somebody, even if it's just your book, just what you did. You spoke very well. You put the book up, you spoke, you talked to us. Have someone maybe video you and put that up maybe on your social media page where you read on one of your better days, that you read maybe a paragraph and just show the book. And this is sold on Amazon. And that's it. If it doesn't take, it doesn't take. You don't have to put that up. That's one avenue you could do. If you wouldn't have told me, I don't know about the rest of the people on this platform, I wouldn't have known you have this speech impediment. Maybe not focus on that and not claim that to say that, just speak. There are other people who read you that have the same thing going on that might detect something like that. Therefore, that's not going to bother them. Again, that goes into who then becomes your audience. You may be the voice for people who have things like that go on in their lives, that want to hear your voice and hear from you. So, I mean, I'm hoping that helps, but
yes,
get your voice out there. Some people need to hear from you. They need to hear from you. And don't claim what you have, because you don't have that. I'm claiming that for you. You speak very well, sir.
Thank you. I want to, as I explained to Mr. Peter in a previous interview, everybody, a number of people, because they've heard my story and they're like, "Oh, your testimony is so inspirational. You should write an autobiography." And I'm like, I want to be a successful author because I write well. So in short, I want to be a successful author who happened to have had an accident. I don't want to be a successful author because I had an accident. So if that makes any sense, I write a lot. And to me, writing is a whole lot easier than marketing, than selling. I can't. You asked a question about, or you mentioned about the process of production and marketing, and I haven't spoken to anybody in an open forum about it, but one of the things that I find is very, very disheartening is, as a relatively new author, I'm still learning the ropes, as you know, I think I mentioned before, I didn't go back to research how to write a novel until after I had published my novel. And one of the things that I've encountered over the past couple of years, there's so many people out there who just want to take advantage of people.
Yes,
Want to take advantage of unsuspecting authors. Mr. Peter asked the question, how do you become a best-selling author? I've had these people contact me via the various social media platforms, and they can quote unquote guarantee that I'm going to be a best-selling author. And I'm like, how can you guarantee that? You haven't even read my work. And then they tell you, well, there are certain keywords that you research. So you put these keywords in the description of your work, your book, and that gets you a better rating on Amazon. Then there's one individual, I won't call any names, but one individual says to me, well, you research these keywords and you basically insert these words into the description of your work, so that when people look at it, look for it, and if you can't find those categories, what you want to do, they said, is you look for the categories that have the fewest authors in it. And if you can't find a place, or you can't find a category that has a relatively small number of authors, then you create a description that basically restricts the number of people with whom you compete. So that's essentially how you become a best-selling author, is you go into a category where there's nobody else. And if you sell 100 books, then you're a best-selling author.
Oh yeah.
And, to me, that's borderline dishonest. I'm sorry, but that's just the way I feel.
I think that you should stay true to your book, your genre, I don't think it has anything to do with how many authors or least amount of authors. Keywords are extremely important. I want to know, because if the book is philosophical, keyword, slavery, civil rights movement, African American, Black. You can go on and on and on. Wisdom literature, poetry. I mean, you want to come up with tons of keywords on a book, for the mere fact that someone may be searching for a philosophical book, not necessarily looking for a book related to slavery, but come across my book because that is what's in here. You don't want to put other words that are not in your book, because then you don't want people to then shy away from you as an author, and you don't want maybe a review online to say that, about your book. And then the reviews, let me say that while we have that moment up here. You're going to get people who love your book and give you the 5 stars. You're going to get those people who don't like your work. They're going to say, this was a piece of garbage. I wasted my money. It's okay. There was, and I'm not real big into the rap. I have kids, but there was one of it was one of the stories, a documentary. I want to say Eazy-E, if I remember correctly. And it was about people buying the CDs and throwing them away in the movie. And he said something to the tune, well, they paid for them. So what do we care if they burn them or throw them away? You paid for them. So look at that. When you see a bad review, that doesn't mean you're a bad author. It's that they didn't like that book. Respect the fact that they were honest in what they felt they believed. Well, they're just not the author for you. You're not the writer for them. That's it.
Yeah, that's quite amazing. Yeah, thank you, Rainin Drummond Brown. That's quite amazing to hear, and it's quite fun to get to know some of the things we should look out for in order to become a best-selling author. So, because of our time, I'd love to move into the next speaker. I'll be introducing author Famous Chukwuemeka before having him talk about his book. So I'll be reading a short bio of Famous. Chukwuemeka Famous is an emerging Nigerian writer born in Eastern Nigeria. He has a degree in microbiology from the University of Benin. He began writing a literary blog during his university days, where a number of his short stories and poems have been published. a short story, Oyinbo, was shortlisted for the Park Light Writing Contest and has been picked to be adapted into a short movie. His manuscript, Butterflies Will Come, published as We Will Live Again, was long-listed for the Quramo Writers' Prize in 2020. It was also long-listed for the Board Call Writing Contest in 2022 rather. It was selected to write a chapter of the international collaborative novel Pulls Apart. More of his writing have been published in Quaesitum Blog, Ibua Journal, the Erudite Magazine, Elitism6 Blog, the Charlotte's Review, Analogies and Allegories Literary Magazines, All Years Magazines, Wingless Dreamer Literary Magazine, WSA Magazine, and he also published work in the anthology Parklight, Memories of Growing Up in Africa. He writes from Nigeria. So it's been a pleasure to have Famous on the show to have a short description and talk about his book.
Hi everyone, thank you Peter for the introduction. Thank you so much. Lagos, Nigeria, currently in Lagos. Okay, so I'll be talking about my book, which by the way is yet to be published. It's titled We Will Live Again, originally titled as Butterflies Will Come. And the book talks about the family of four, the father and mother and two sons, who struggle internally amongst themselves with issues that will later destroy the family. And this comes after the father, a religious man, who is the head of his local church, becomes very obsessive with his religion. And as a matter of fact, as a result, tramples upon the emotions of his family, his wife, and his children, takes to beating his wife up, and using words that belittle someone's ego. And so the story is set against the backdrop of the civil war in Nigeria, the Nigerian Civil War that took place between 1967 to 1970. So it was set during this era. And so upon the onset of the Civil War, they were forced to flee to a more safe place, which happens to be the village. And so on getting there, a lot of issues arise, family issues, and the man's fanaticism into religion, and also when he was forced to kill someone by soldiers. So this leads to his total destruction, and also after these issues arise, it leads to the total destruction of his family and himself, and he eventually dies. So I have here a copy of the proof by the publisher sent to me. Like I said, it's not published yet. This is just a proof copy.
Yeah, but are you with a proof copy? We can't see your video.
Okay,
We'll have okay. To show it to the audience.
Okay, can you see it now?
Oh no, probably it's a network issue. Would have loved to see what the book looks like.
Okay.
Probably you have to go ahead with it then.
All right, can you see it now?
No. Or can other people see it? Maybe it's from my side.
I can't see it. No.
Oh, good. Wow, that's
right,
beautiful.
Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the proof copy. Yeah, it's to We Will Live Again. So, and this is my debut. This is my first book, my first work. Every other published work I've had is just short stories published in magazines and journals and anthologies. So this is my first book, and I'm happy showing it to you all. So that's basically what the book is all about. It explores themes around family unity and politics, and most importantly, religion, because in these aspects we are grappling with issues of religious extremisms, and recently there was an issue in Nigeria here where a young girl, which I talked about with Peter, a young girl was stoned to death. So these were some of the issues I tried to cover in the book. and also about what inspired the book. It was basically inspired by my own family background. I come from a family, an extended family that isn't really, united. So while growing up, I saw a lot of drama. I saw a lot of misunderstandings between my parents, my father, his brothers, his mom, the rest of them. The family was just not united. So these were some of the things that informed me, and I took to writing the book. So that's it for We Will Live Again. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's amazing. That's so amazing. I look forward to reading the book, even mentioning the fact that it talks of things happening in Nigeria cover the need. It sounds like a really interesting one.
It's going to be made available later this year.
Oh, that's great. So I'll be moving to the next speaker. That would be Ben Peak. And I'll be reading a short bio about Ben Peak before handing over to him. So Ben Peak is an avid runner and application security analyst who enjoys writing character-focused stories in his spare time. He also posts weekly videos on YouTube about the writing process as Running to Write, where he compares writing to the struggles of running. He loves getting lost in words, from the books and game he enjoys to the stories he creates. When not writing, running, or gaming, it takes care of potentially the laziest plot hood in the world. And I've been a huge fan of Ben Peak's YouTube channel. I love watching quite a lot of his videos, and I'm a very huge follower of what he got there. He's got an amazing show, and I left a link also in the description part of the conference. So welcome on the show, Ben Peak.
Thank you, Peter, so much. And again, I absolutely appreciate your show as well. I'm a huge fan of your YouTube channel. It's been fun watching you interview all of those speakers. And I do want to apologize. I'm sick today, so I've been kind of in and out of it all morning. So I am late, and I'm really sorry about that. But yes, like you said, I'm a writer. I have my first published novel. It's called Falling Through, and it is. There we go. There's no glare. Yeah, so it's an urban fantasy, and it's all about a group of teenagers. So there's 3 good friends, and they go off on an adventure as they discover that they have superpowers and accidentally create a monster, which sends them on a journey throughout time. So there's a lot of mixed genres in there, and found families, and how the group of friends come together to become stronger than they were individually. And those are some of the main themes that I focused on when I was writing this, as well as learning to maybe live with some mistakes that we've made in the past, and then growing as people from there. So that's one of the primary focuses with this story. And this was published back in August. I am really working hard to get my next novel out there the first weekend in December. If I missed that December 3rd marker, I'm probably going to push it back to late January, so that way I avoid the holiday rush. But it is in the editing process. I'm going to get it back hopefully this week, and I will try and get this published in the second book as their adventures continue and the stakes get higher. And I do appreciate you talking about Running to Write. That's one of my other passions, in that I am an author tuber, and I am trying to share the steps that I've gone through and all the lessons I've learned into a way to promote that knowledge within the community. And I really want to work on promoting other authors. So this season that just started off this year, this past week, the season that just started is all about expanding on current author tubers and indie authors. And I'm going to be bringing a lot more people on to ask them questions about random challenges they face. So whether that's cover designs or how to sell a bestseller. And I'm also going to be highlighting some of the other indie authors who I know through this small community. And it is a great chance for me to give back as much as I can. So I've started off my series. I am happy to learn as much as I can from some of the more experienced people here, as I've caught just in time to learn some strategies for turning a novel into a bestseller. I'm just starting off, but I would love for the series to take off from there. So yeah, thank you for giving me a chance to speak here. And I look forward to sharing or to learning from all of you in this conference and the other sessions that are going on.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So we should have Jerry Api Oguni to be the next speaker, but I don't know what happened along the line. Perhaps you have some other network issue to like got him off. So within this short while, I don't know if anybody has something to say before we call off the conference, because yeah.
Sorry, I'm going back and forth. I can say something for Mr. Howard's question, where it was you didn't know necessarily what to put your time and efforts into. And my suggestion is to just try everything that you have time to devote to. Try everything. I know a couple of people who are trying to get into TikTok or Book Talk or whatever you want to call it. I know people who are trying to promote their books on Instagram, and I would suggest just pick one of them and try and expand from there. If that doesn't work, then try something else, because those are huge time sinks. But the best suggestion that I've received is to just try and experiment out there. So I've been focusing more on Instagram than anything else, but a lot of other newbie authors I know have found success through Book Talk. So TikTok and promoting their books that way with various shorts. And that's something that you can do. I mean, I know that you mentioned that you aren't necessarily comfortable in front of the camera, but if you can do just one good take, I mean, you were talking perfectly fine. I didn't notice anything until you had said that. And that is just a chance to show who you are. And even if you do fumble through what you're saying or, make a mistake, I mean, just post something else or record over it or do whatever you want, because that's how you are showing yourself to the world. And so just, be you and have fun with it.
Well, one of the problems that I have a few issues to first overcome. If you notice, most authors have their images on their books. Mine, I do not have a photo on the back of my novel, because when it was suggested, my comment was, as I stated before, I was explaining before, I want to be a successful author because of my writing. You didn't hear this portion, but I explained about my accident. And two, there are a lot of people who say, when is your book coming out? I want to buy your book. But this is gonna sound kind of crash, but I don't mean it that way. I'm a black man.
Mm-hmm.
There's no denying that. I'm from the South, so a lot of people have reminded me of that. But I want to be a successful author because of my writing, because of what I write, my content, not because of what I look like, not because of my values, not because if you enjoy reading, I want you to enjoy my work. That's it. It's as simple as that. I have a presence on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. I used to do Pinterest, but it was not beneficial. But I post, it's about a presence. So every morning on those 4 social media platforms, I post an original philosophical quote. I call them my points to ponder. You can also find those on my website at authorbghoward.com. And every evening I post an excerpt from my book. That has proven beneficial, but I'm still learning this marketing challenge. I'm experimenting. I just got some information about Book Talk, and a couple others, also Etsy. So there are different avenues that you can pursue. I've spoken to authors who are like this one individual. She is on every platform. And I'm like, where do you find the time to do that? I mean, I have a schedule, Monday through Friday. Typically, I'm off on the weekend, but Mr. Peter twisted my arm and made, okay, I'm here. But typically Monday through Friday, between the hours of 6 a.m. 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. is when I write. That's what my voicemail says. I'm typically working from 7, 8 in the morning until 9, 10 at night. But you know, it's a full-time job. So I've tried a number of platforms. In all honesty, I've spent a buttload of money. And people are, you know, they're very, very willing to take your money, and you know, they're guaranteeing me, or you know, I'll get you 100 views, or I'll get you, 50 reviews, and I've got nothing. I think on Amazon I've got maybe 3 reviews, 2 or 3 reviews, and all these promises. They make promises, but they don't deliver. And then when they don't deliver, what can you do? So I honestly, it's almost shameful to say it, but I've been taken a lot. You know, unfortunately, in the process of gaining an education, you can either pay for a 4-year degree, or you can pay for the experience. And I've been paying for the experience. So that's the difficulty that I find in becoming a best-selling author, is that, you know, everything costs. Everything, it's unfortunate, but it's a reality. Everything costs. And I have, you know, without exaggeration, I think in April, when I started this process, the balance of my credit card was 0. I looked at my credit card statement just a few minutes ago after talking to Mr. Peter. I looked at my credit card statement. I think the balance right now is a little more than 13,000. So in what, 3-4 months, I've spent that much money trying to market a book that, you know, just, it's a good book, according to not being self-grandizing, but from what I've been told, everybody who's read the book says it's a very good book. It's just a matter of getting the book out there and getting it seen and getting it known. So that's the challenge that I'm having. I can write, no problem. Selling it is a different story.
Well, one thing I can say is that you have a very good cover, and you also have a very good tagline. So if you spent money on that, that has been money well spent.
Well, I mean, my book cover, I think I paid about $800 for the book cover. I contributed to the design. I had this idea, and I contacted there's a company called Jet Launch. I think they're out of Arizona, but worked name, but the company is Jet Launch, and Chris O'Brien is the owner. His daughter works with him, but she worked with me on the design of the cover, and you know, we came up with this cover. Like I said, it cost me about $800, and then I've got the follow-up is going to be out next year, but we worked on those 2 covers together. But I think all total it cost me around $800 for the cover. Then for editing, it cost me another $1,000. There was a second edition of the editing that cost me an additional $1,200. So it's like there's money in it. I mean, there's money in it for other people. The unfortunate part is the money doesn't come for the author unless if he or she can sell the book, and that's the problem that I'm having.
Well, today you have like your Lulu, which is a free publishing company. You have the KDPs, through Author House, and I so get that while they see more of the royalties than you do, and you are the author of the book, you have to weigh your pros and cons, because in doing it the way that you are doing it, seems as though in some cases, some of the people may be trying to, take advantage of you. And certainly no one deserves to be taken advantage of like that. So you may want to, today you have the YouTube. You can actually go on, and you don't have to go to college courses and take the classes. You can go on those platforms, and they kind of walk you through the avenues of publishing. That's what I did. I wanted to be in control of writing my book, not only writing it, but publishing it. But I knew that it had to be more than just writing and just publishing. Then the marketing comes in. I get tons of calls like you do. And to me, these are red flags for me. When you call me and want to take my name down and take me off of the book to republish it with your name on the book with me, well, that's a red flag for me, because I wrote that book and set up through many nights of blood, sweat, and tears. So these are things that you may want to focus on being red flags for you. And some of the money amounts are astronomical. I went to grad school, a very good grad school, Chatham University, and I wrote query letters while in grad school. So when someone's telling me we'll write your query letter for $2,100, you're out of your mind, because I can write a query letter in 10 minutes. So I'm just saying you have to look at things like that. And if it doesn't sound right, if it don't feel right, if it don't smell right, it's not right. You ought not to put that kind of money in a project with promises that you're not seeing and then be taken from someone else after.
Right. And one of the things that I don't like to, I'm not a realist with a twist. The reality of the situation is, yes, I had an accident. Brain damage. And as I told Mr. Peter before, I underwent 8 years of rehabilitative therapy. I still have some challenges. Physical issues, a lot of challenges. So for me to produce the book within itself, that was a feat. And now I'm still learning. I'll always be learning. But the situation is I'm learning how to navigate the marketing. I'm learning how to navigate the promotional aspects of it. And one of the things that you mentioned something earlier about coming out of your comfort zone. I've had to tear down the walls because I didn't want to be seen. Even when I first came onto this platform, I didn't have my camera on because I didn't want to be seen. And so these are all challenges that I have to overcome, and I know I'm learning that I'm uncomfortable right now. I'm very uncomfortable, but I'm hearing you, and I'm applying your advice. That I just gotta meet it head on. I gotta meet it head on, and
you do. One thing, take out your mind. People are more educated consumers today. If I see Mr. Donovan's book and his cover speaks to me, and I turn that book over, and Mr. Donovan has something to say that has an interest that piques my interest, I'm buying this book. I don't care, red, yellow, black, green. I don't care about this. So I think that's the first thing. You want put your picture on the back of the book. I see who you are. You can't take that. Everybody is not the same. Like I said, Mr. Pick, we have more educated readers today, more educated shoppers, buyers today. Mr. Pick, I'm sure, is concerned with a good book, not if an African American female on the back, and if, let's just say an if, that is his concern, he just missed out on reading a good book. Simple as that. Would you agree, Mr. Pick?
Well, and
So,
of course. Also, I was just going to say really quickly, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I also am not on the back in any way. So you don't need to throw that out there. So yes, I'm really
not
sorry
on the back of my book too. I'm not on the back of my book. Let me try and take a copy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What were you saying, Mr. Howard?
The reason I'm a very logical person, or I think I am. But before, in the process of designing my book cover, I went to Barnes and Noble. I went to the book section in Walmart. I went to what's the other anyway, I went to several bookstores, and I just sat and watched, and I would see the greater number of people come up to the book. The cover grabs their attention. So the cover grabs their attention. They walk over, they pick up the book, and the first thing they do is turn it over. If they saw a greater majority of them, if they saw a Black person's photo on the back of that book, they put it down and walk away.
In some cases, I can agree with that. But again, as I said to you, that's not your audience, and that's not you don't even want the kind of person reading your book then, because they're going to miss your whole point. Now, I do have a book. I'm on the front. This was literally a fight to put me on this, because this was maybe book 4 or something like that. I think no, this was book 3. The Soul to the Highest Bidder was book 2. How I got on the cover was because the husband said, well, look, you're this writer and you have all these words out there, but no one knows who you are as the writer. But this is the only book that I'm on the front. Now, some of the book I'm on the back. I'm not on the back, of course, of this one, but some of my books are now on the back. That was just an introductory. That was not important for me. Yeah, yes. And I have your excellent book, and I believe you're in the cover of the book. I mean, on the back of the book that I have of yours, correct? Peter, correct? I have a book of Peter's, and I believe he's in his picture. But I said that to say, you can't get hung up in that. You mentioned earlier about a woman that was on a platform. She's everywhere. But guess what? You're following her because you're seeing her everywhere. So that's my point that I'm making to you. Begin to focus on putting you everywhere. Maybe not so much if you're still not comfortable. No one wants to push you into something you do not want to do. If you don't feel comfortable going on your books, let it be that reason, but not for the fear of who is or is not going to read you. I love all kinds of literature. I sat in a grad program, and in 99% of my classes, I was the only African-American in the class. So my story was so different from everyone else. It didn't stop me from enjoying and hearing those other author stories. Another thing, I was the oldest one in the classroom. So I had a lot of kids, and it brought a different perspective into writing and things for me, that it kept me connected to my own children, hearing what those kids had to say. I had to move on campus my last semester. Can you imagine that with kids? So, but bridge to such a those kids loved me before we left out of that program. I'm saying because there was a gap that was bridged. The professors all connected to me because we were in that same age range, and I connected the kids to my world of where we came from. That's what you're going to have to learn to do in your writings, is be the bridge. I have a book titled The Bridge Over Troubled Water. Be the bridge to connect other people who are not like you, don't think like you or not like you. Be that bridge that they want to read your works. So, that's what I think for you, instead of focusing so much and not so much on the disability. That happens with all of us. We all struggle as writers with something, all of us. But focus maybe on some of the good things about yourself. We want to balance it, even in your writings. Balance that out, if that makes sense to you.
Perfectly. And I will take that advice to heart.
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. And it's real with everyone. I need you to go for grandson in the hospital. I need to go feed him. I enjoyed each of you. Please come back. And Peter, put their links up to their books and things. I like to look up their works and things. And by all means, everyone, please check me out on Renee Drummond Brown, Facebook, LinkedIn. Not real good. The what is it? Twitter and all that. So I get my kids to throw my books on their page. There's a way. There's a will and a way. So I wish the best to you, Mr. Howard, Mr. Pick, and Mr. Donovan, and Peter. Please put all their links.
Thank you so much.
Peter.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Sure.
you all.
I'm gonna add the link also to everybody's page in the description part of the video. Thank you,
Okay.
everybody, for accepting, for coming on the show and
Okay.
coming up the Writers'
Thank you,
Conference.
Brown.
Pleasure having you all.
Okay. Peter, we'll talk later.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Peter.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Ben. Nice seeing you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. It was
Yeah.
a great learning experience.
Man, I gotta say, your cover is really, really good.
Thank you. I'm also excited for the next one. So I'm doing a cover reveal a week from Monday, and I can show it again. But the next cover is also really cool too. So this is a scene from the
Beautiful.
book, and the next one is also another scene from the. I'm really proud of the series, and I'm going to keep writing. So hopefully, things just take off from there. It'll take a while to be best-selling author, obviously, but that is the eventual goal, I guess.
How much time did you think about like whether your cover would be glossy or matte?
That's a good question. Maybe 5-10
Please,
minutes. I mean, I
Lucy.
really wanted the matte.
Okay.
So I really like the matte feeling. I've had some, the glossy feeling. I've had some matte covers, and I feel like
They're
that
not
leaves
really
my
that
my
attractive.
fingerprints. Yeah, it leaves a little more fingerprint residue on there. So in terms of glossy, I was always kind of wanting to do this version than matte. But yeah, I think I spent more time trying to figure out the cream color on the inside than
I
than
love
the actual
cream
cover.
colors.
Mm-hmm.
I love cream colors. My books are in cream colors instead of the
Yep.
white.
It makes it pop a little more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Peter, congratulations on the building of your media empire. Every time I get a post from you on Facebook, it's like, okay, it's another thing of Peter's media empire. Because it's always something new.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited about it too. Yeah, thank you. That's a
Well, I hate to part such good company, but I have overstayed my welcome, I guess. Mr. Peter invited me back. I was on the first session, and Mr. Peter invited me back. I appreciate your invite. It was a wonderful meeting all the authors, and excuse me, I have a company that just arrived at my house, so
Have fun.
to avoid all the background noise, I'm gonna bow out. But again, I'd like to connect with Mr. Peter. You said you're gonna put the link to everybody's work.
Yeah, sure, I'll do that.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm a little slow in most things concerning life. So don't write me off if I don't get to you right away, but I will be in touch with each of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But thank you again, Mr. Peter, and I'm sorry, I can't see the names. Mr. Chris and
Ben.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was my pleasure.
But thank you again, Mr. Peter, and hopefully we can do something like this again soon.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. See you.